Hello and welcome back to the Daily Bible Summary, where the goal is to renew your mind as we read a new chapter every day and ask, what can I learn? Today's episode is entitled, Not My Will, But Yours. Read Mark chapter 14 if you have not, and if you have, let's get started. In today's episode, it's 2 days before Passover. The chief priests and scribes are plotting how to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they don't want to do it during the feast because they're afraid of a riot among the people. Meanwhile, Jesus is in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, and a woman comes with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment, pure nard, worth a year's wages. Now, I don't know how much you make a year, but just take an average, $25,000, $30,000 a year. That's a lot of money to spend on ointment. And she breaks it open and she pours it over Jesus' head. Now, some complain about the waste, saying it could have been sold to help the poor, and they scold her harshly. John's Gospel tells us that it was Judas leading this complaint, but his concern really wasn't for the poor. He was a thief who used to help himself to the money bag. But Jesus defends her. The poor they will always have an opportunity to help, he says, but what she did for him was for his burial. He will not always be with them. Then Jesus makes this wonderful statement. Truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her. And here we are, 2,000 years later, still talking about her extravagant devotion. It was immediately after that Judas Iscariot goes to the chief priests to betray Jesus. They're delighted, and they promise him money. Now Judas starts to look for an opportunity to hand him over, and soon one will present itself. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples asked Jesus where they should prepare the Passover. And as with the triumphal entry, he sends 2 disciples into the city with specific instructions, which they follow and wind up arriving at a large upper room already furnished and ready. That evening, as Jesus reclines at table, he shocks them by saying that one of them will betray him. They're sorrowful and start asking one another, "Is it I?" Jesus tells them it's one of the 12, and one who dipped bread in the dish with him. He also proclaims a woe on this person. It would have been better for this man if he had never been born. Then Jesus uses the Passover elements to establish what we call today the Lord's Supper. As they're eating, Jesus takes bread and a cup, and after giving thanks for each, he gives it to them and declares their significance. The bread is his body, the cup is his blood. And when we partake of these, we are proclaiming his death until he comes again. After singing a hymn, they go out to the Mount of Olives. Jesus tells them they will all fall away, quoting Zechariah, whose prophecy was, "I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered." But he promises that after he is raised, he will go before them to Galilee. Peter strongly objects to this. "Even though they all fall away, I will not." And Jesus tells Peter that he will deny him 3 times. But Peter insists he will never fall away, even if it means dying with Jesus, and all the others say the same thing as well. As they come to Gethsemane, Jesus takes Peter, James, and John with him a little ways away, and in stress he tells them, "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch." And so he goes a little bit further beyond them and falls to the ground and prays that if it's possible at all, that this hour might pass away from him. But he says, "Not my will, but your will be done." This is the heart of submission. He dreads what's coming, but his will is completely surrendered to the Father's plan. Coming back to the disciples who are now sleeping, he asks Simon why he couldn't stay awake for 1 hour and warns him to watch and pray, because, as he says, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Notice he specifically calls on Simon. Simon is the one in danger of betraying him, and rather than praying like Jesus is, Simon is asleep. 3 times he goes to pray, and 3 times he returns to find them sleeping. Finally, it's time to go because the betrayer has arrived. And Judas does arrive, with the crowd armed with swords and clubs sent by the Jewish leaders. He walks right up to Jesus and kisses him on the cheek, the signal that identifies Jesus for arrest. One of the bystanders, John tells us it's Peter, draws a sword and strikes the high priest's servant, cutting off his ear. And we see Jesus here then yield to the crowd so that, as he says, the scriptures would be fulfilled and his disciples flee just as Jesus had said. Mark includes an interesting detail. A young man followed Jesus wearing nothing but a linen cloth. When they try to seize him, he leaves the cloth and runs away naked. Many think that this young man was Mark himself, though we have no way to be sure. They lead Jesus to the high priest and Jewish leaders, and Peter follows at a distance right into the courtyard of the high priest, sitting with the guards and warming himself at the fire. Not the best place to be, Peter. The chief priests and the whole council are seeking testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but they can't find any. Many bear false witness, but even their testimonies don't agree. And finally, the high priest stands and basically asks Jesus, why isn't he defending himself? But Jesus remains silent and makes no answer. Then the high priest asks the direct question, are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed? And Jesus answered clearly, I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming in the clouds of heaven. The high priest tears his garments at this and declares that it's blasphemy. They all condemn him as deserving death. Some spit on him, some cover his face, some strike him, some mock him. Prophesy, they say. The guards, they take him and receive him with blows. Meanwhile, Peter is below in the courtyard. One of the servant girls of the high priest comes and sees him warming himself, and she identifies him as being with Jesus. Peter denies it. I neither know nor understand what you mean. He goes out into the gateway, and the rooster crows. Then, in similar fashion, Peter is recognized and denies that he knows Jesus twice more. Immediately, the rooster crows for a second time. Peter now remembers how Jesus said to him, before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. And he breaks down and he weeps. So what can we learn from this chapter? Our first lesson is that true submission, it means surrendering your will to God's will. In Gethsemane, Jesus prayed, not what I will, but what you will. And he wanted that cup removed, but he wanted the Father's will more. What are you asking God to remove that he is asking you to accept? Submission isn't pretending that you don't have struggles. It's struggling honestly. Even Jesus was honest and wanted the cup to pass from him. But choosing God's will over your own will, now that is true submission. Where do you need to pray, not my will, but yours be done? Second, overconfidence in ourselves leads to failure. Peter insisted he would never deny Jesus, but yet hours later, he had denied him 3 times. He was confident, but so confident that he didn't take to heart Jesus' warning to watch him pray. Where are you overconfident in your own ability to stand firm before the Lord? Remember, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is truly indeed weak. We need to watch and pray, not trust in ourselves. And we are even encouraged in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 16, to draw near with confidence to the throne of grace, where we can find help. What temptation are you facing that requires more vigilance than you're giving it? Tomorrow, Lord willing, we'll move into Mark chapter 15. Where Jesus stands for trial before Pilate and is crucified. As we reflect on Jesus' prayer, not my will but yours, each day we continue to renew our minds.